Welcome to Changing Higher Ed, a podcast dedicated to helping higher education leaders improve their institutions. With your host, Dr. Drumm McNaughton, CEO of The Change Leader, a consultancy that helps higher ed leaders holistically transform their institutions. Learn more at changinghighered.com. And now, here's your host, Drumm McNaughton.
Thank you, David. My guest today is France Hoang, founder and CEO of BoodleBox. BoodleBox is a secure collaborative AI platform for education and work and gives students and users access to multiple AI models to enhance learning, productivity, and AI literacy. France brings over 25 years of experience in national security, law, technology, and entrepreneurship. You might have guessed that he's a serial entrepreneur. Prior to BoodleBox, he was on the founding teams of multiple companies that generated over $600 million in combined sales and employed over 1,200 professionals in multiple areas. He served as Associate White House Counsel and Special Assistant to President George W. Bush. He was deployed as a Special Forces to Afghanistan. And unfortunately, he also graduated from West Point, which, as my listeners know, is our rival but sister school. France is passionate about democratizing AI access for education and mission-driven organizations, and he joins me today to talk about how AI is getting applied in higher education and different ways you can use it. France, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning, Drumm.
Likewise, I am so looking forward to our conversation. You are the founder and CEO of BoodleBox, but you have an incredible background, which is actually very much aligned you with AI, which is what BoodleBox is all about. Before we get into AI and what's going on with that in higher ed, please give us a little background.
Oh, thanks, Drumm. I like to joke I've got professional ADHD. I've done more than a couple of things. I'm a refugee from Vietnam. I grew up in Washington State. I wanted to give back to this great country, so I ended up going to West Point, served in the U.S. military. Yeah.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
I couldn't resist.
We are friends 364 days of the year, Drumm.
That's
right?
it, baby.
One day.
Yep.
But you had a leg up on us.
Yeah, we have for a while, although your quarterback, the one that left last year, was incredible. He was one of the best I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, one of the reasons I went to West Point, besides the fact that it's the Superior Service Academy, one, I didn't know how to swim coming out of high school, so that eliminated me from the Naval Academy. And two, I have terrible eyesight, so that eliminated me from the Air Force Academy. But yeah, I served as an Army officer for 5 years. I was a peacekeeper in Bosnia. Then I had my first career pivot. I became a lawyer. Frankly, not a very good lawyer, I think, but still ended up working in the White House and for some terrific law firms and in DC. Then I actually commissioned again as an Army officer, served in Afghanistan with U.S. Army Special Forces in combat, came back and became an entrepreneur. Started a couple different companies. I have done well with my fellow founders at these companies. After I exited my most successful company, wanted to continue serving. And I've always had a love of education. So among other things, I became a trustee of a university. I became and remain a distinguished visiting lecturer at West Point. So I've had lots of classroom and academic time, done everything from who should we pick as the next vice chancellor to open your textbooks to page 43. Mm-hmm. I've been involved with AI before AI was cool, was involved in building and deploying AI tools for almost 10 years now. And so BoodleBox, as you mentioned, is the culmination of all those things. It's the intersection of my love of education, my strong interest in AI, and my desire to solve hard problems that need solving.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds to me you have a very broad experience. Does that experience help you in working with higher ed institutions to bring things, best practices from the outside to help make institutions more efficient?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's challenging about education, right, is what's our North Star, right? What are we trying to accomplish? And I think if you ask different people, you get different answers. I think that has been strongly challenged by AI. One of my favorite quotes, Drumm, is from Plutarch, right? A mind isn't a vessel to be filled, it's a fire to be lit.
Oh, I like that.
I think there's always been this question, what are we doing in education, right? Are we filling minds? Are we lighting fires? And AI has caused us to really think hard about that question. I think among many other things that education needs to do, it needs to prepare our graduates for this AI-enabled future, which is really our AI-enabled present. And because of my workforce experience, I've seen that, right? I've seen how organizations prosper and grow. And so I can bring that, right, when I look at education. And if part of education is preparing students for that world, I've been in that world. And having used AI and built AI, I see both the promise and the perils of AI in the real world. And thus I can kind of look from that point backwards and say, gosh, how should AI be in the classroom?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because there's all sorts of applications for AI in higher education, classroom being one of them. The challenge I'm seeing in higher ed, but even more so when I think, I flew airplanes in the Navy. Mm-hmm. And when I see people saying, oh, yes, we'll just turn over the aircraft control system, the FAA functions to AI, I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to fly anymore. It's not that it isn't good, but it still requires human intervention. It still requires monitoring because it doesn't always make the right decision. An example of that would be autonomous cars. It doesn't always see everything it's supposed to. And what happens when it malfunctions? Somebody dies.
One of the driving reasons I built BoodleBox was because I felt there was too much AI in AI. There's this belief that it's humans versus AI, right? And it's a zero-sum game. There's this thing called the fallacy of the cognitive offloading, right? That what we do as human beings, if you outsource something, then there's less left. I don't think it's humans versus AI. I think it should be humans plus AI. In fact, it should be humans plus other humans plus AI plus AI.
Yeah.
And so I believe the future of work, and thus the future of learning, is human-AI collaboration. And I hear this term a lot, right? AI first. I actually really dislike that term. Mm-hmm. I don't think organizations should be AI first. I don't think society should be AI first. I think we should be human first. Yes. However, AI allows us, if we use it responsibly and collaboratively, to be the best versions of ourselves. It gives us more time and space for human connection, for critical thinking.
Interesting, because when I think about the great inventions that have happened over the years, iPhone, light bulb, all these things, they were humans who were doing it. Could AI develop the idea to do something like this? Could it build the plans? Yeah, very possibly. But would it be backwards looking because of the technology, or would it be forward looking, as someone's intuition, as someone's experience can make that leap of faith?
Yeah, one of the concerns I hear is that AI is going to replace us because it basically commoditizes expertise, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I build a partner level AI, I don't need law firm partners anymore. We can get rid of all the lawyers, right?
Well, I'm sorry, we're not going to go there on that one.
But here's the truth. Because of the limitations of large language models, anybody who's used AI at length knows if I use AI in an area where I don't have expertise, say refrigerator repair for me, I think AI is amazing because I don't know anything about refrigerator repair. But if I use it in an area where I do have expertise, let's say the law, I instantly see the limitations of it. It gives me about a B- answer, right? It does about an 80% job. Mm-hmm. Well, that's always true. So if you build a partner level AI, you have a partner level AI that is right 80% of the time and wrong 20% of the time. Well, who's that useful to, right? The everyday person doesn't want to have 80% of their legal answers right. It's actually most useful to somebody who already has domain expertise. It's most useful to the existing law firm partner who can see the 80% that's right, the 20% that's wrong, and it actually makes them faster, better, more efficient. And now they can use that AI and maybe automate some of the things that were rote for them and spend more time on the things that are value add, right? The critical thinking and what we all want more of, human connection.
You bring up a very interesting point, and I hadn't thought of it that way about, the AI and the human interaction and having the partner. It really takes someone with that partner level expertise or department chair, swapping it over to faculty or your researcher, yes. Will it speed up things? Absolutely. But you still need that human there to say, no, this is garbage. Or, oh, this is a good point. Hadn't thought of it that way. You need that human expertise to double check.
Right. And where are students going to develop that human expertise?
Exactly.
If AI gets you to B minus, it will never get you past the B minus by itself, right? So in other words, if I'm a student and I'm just using AI, I get up to the B minus. Well, guess what? This is why educators are more, not less important now as well. Because the classroom is the place where you can develop that domain expertise. It takes somebody with academic credentials, with real life experience, and who knows how to educate to create those domain experts in our students today. And so that's why I don't think we have to worry as educators about being replaced anytime soon.
No. And in fact, if business was thinking about it smartly, they wouldn't be trying to replace so many people. Yes, from a bottom line dollar perspective, great. But do we want, Six Sigma? Do we want things outside of the limits that AI can do, or do we want things that are going to be better?
Yeah, I think there's this misnomer, and technologists often fall in this trap, right? That we view a job as a collection of tasks and completely remove the human element from it, right? I am more than just somebody who does 5 different tasks throughout the day, right? That's not what I do, right? I think about those things. I prioritize. I interact with other people. I exercise judgment. And what AI could actually do is give me more time to do those uniquely human value add activities. And so that's the way we should think about AI, right? In terms of augmenting and increasing human potential, not replacing it.
My listeners often hear me refer to AAC&U, the American Association of Colleges and Universities. And every 2 years, they come out with a study of what employers want from graduates. And we hear AI as starting to creep up there, but not on itself, but to how to use it. It's always the human traits that you're talking about, the critical thinking, the ability to analyze data, draw conclusions, working in teams. These are all critical things that a human can do, but a machine can't.
Yeah. So I love that you brought up AAC&U. I was literally there at their annual conference 2 nights ago. I saw Eddie Watson. I saw Jose Bowen. We talked about their most recent study. What you said is absolutely true. Let me point out something that's also true that is a little troubling. As it turns out, many of us know that when a recent college graduate, the jobs they take generally actually don't involve critical thinking and creativity. They involve relatively routine work to give them 1 or 2 or 3 years of opportunities to develop that judgment, that critical thinking, that creativity. And so they have to serve an apprenticeship. One of the issues now is AI can do those rote tasks, right? And to that extent, senior level people, instead of turning to a junior level person, are turning to AI. The problem is, if I've never been a first or second or third year analyst, how do I develop the expertise and judgment and experience to be a 4th year analyst? And so this is a conundrum, right? And Jose Bowen has talked about this a lot in his keynotes. I think the answer again is education. I think as educators, we need to step up our game. We need to not just fill vessels, but light fires, and light fires that burn bright, and give the graduates of our programs not just the knowledge, but also develop that expertise, develop those critical thinking skills as if they were already 4th year analysts. And that should happen in the classroom.
I agree. Whether it be in the classroom, whether it be externs, interns, work. I had the president of Paul Quinn College on not so long ago, and they have an incredible model. Their tuition is much lower than many institutions. The way they are able to do this is they have freshmen and sophomore working for the college, learning different skills. Their pay goes to pay for the tuition, et cetera. It's not indentured servitude. They're getting a good education out of it. Years 3 and 4, they're working for Paul Quinn partners like Southwest Airlines and others. They're getting a salary. Their tuition goes down. They're getting great skills. They're learning these 1st, 2nd, 3rd level analyst skills, before they leave college. I mean, to me, this is a wonderful model.
Yeah, you and I attended institutions that valued not just academic achievement, but athletic prowess, and then leadership and character building, right?
Yes.
We were very much as the service academies are wonderful academic institutions, they're also vocational institutions, right?
Yes.
They're teaching us for our vocation. Now, I can hear listeners already saying, but look, I'm a professor. I can't change the DNA of my entire college, right? Another great example of a school like this is Deep Springs, right?
Yes.
You run a ranch, which is awesome, right? But here's the thing. This is the promise of AI. Now you can in your classroom, right? So I'll give you a quick example. At Point Loma, there's a marketing professor, Christine Kahlberg, and she does traditional lecture, and she's the sage on the stage. But then the students have to take their class notes, and they have to build an AI assistant. And they do it doing BoodleBox, and they fill that AI assistant's knowledge bank with all of the notes they took from class. And then the way she assesses the students isn't through a quiz, isn't through an essay. She gives them real-world case studies, real-world simulations, where the students have to collaborate with the AI assistant they created to generate real-world solutions. And at first they do that individually, and eventually they do that in groups. And so she's essentially, right now, asking students to learn how to process the information she gives them, build AI assistants, and collaborate in human AI teams to solve real-world problems. She's given an experiential learning, right? A project-based learning experience inside our classrooms with AI in a way that is possible without having to change the whole DNA of the institution.
Yeah. And she's a marketing professor.
Mm-hmm.
So not tech, not something else, marketing. So this is a good applied AI. I know when we spoke before, we were talking about different models for AI independent, AI enabled, and AI native. This sounds to me like it comes under the AI enabled.
Yeah, and moving into AI enabled to AI native type of structure. Yeah, so Jose Bowen talks about how, right now, a lot of AI use is like taking a horse and buggy and replacing the horse with a steam engine, right? So if you think of AI independent as the horse and buggy, it's the era before AI. AI enabled is where we take existing organizations and processes and procedures, and without changing them, we just insert AI, right? We take something out and we put AI in its stead. That's removing the horse in the horse and buggy and putting a steam engine in its place. But eventually, we want to reimagine processes, procedures, workflows, organizations from the ground up in an era where human AI collaboration is possible, and taking advantage of those things. That's the car, right?
Yeah.
That's being AI enabled. Now, obviously, that's a lot of work. Obviously, that's scary. Obviously, that is not something that's going to happen overnight. But it's clear that the difference between a horse and buggy, a buggy with a steam engine in front of it, and a car, right? The car is where we're going to go. And I will add, in a world of cars, right, there's still horse and buggies, and there's still bicycles, and some people still walk, and there's different types of cars. So it doesn't mean this should be one size fits all.
Right. And I like that analogy very much. We seem to be talking about the classroom with this going to the AI native. I remember Gordon Gee many years ago, back during COVID, he said, COVID is forcing changes on higher ed and accelerating them by more than a decade. Well, I think AI becomes the tool to do this enabling. What other instances have you seen in the classroom that would give listeners an idea of possibilities, how it could be used better?
Yeah, so Pikes Peak State College, they're another one of our partners. They used AI in their writing program. And I use writing because for many people, writing is ground zero of the things that have been challenged by AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how am I going to teach students to write in an era where they can ask AI to write anything from them, right? What's the value of writing? How do I avoid academic integrity issues? And so this very, very, innovative community college writing instructor, again, using BoodleBox, right, built a series of exercises, built a series of bots, made using AI the point, right? Enabled learning not just with AI, but about AI. Example, here's a piece, try this piece of writing yourself, now generating AI, compare and contrast the two. What do you notice, right? Reflections. So at the end of this class, which deeply involved AI both as an examination of writing with and about AI and the limitations of AI, and AI helping to scaffold the students' writing. The students said that 90% of them felt that the use of AI this way was more ethical. 83% said they felt more prepared to use AI in their lives and in their work. 87% preferred the use of this AI tool over the other AI tools they had that were free because it was collaborative and transparent. And so, I think AI, if we're open to rethinking our pedagogy, looking to the future, I think there are ways to incorporate AI that amplify what we want to do in the classroom.
It's interesting because when I go back to my academic hat, when I think about Bloom's taxonomy, lower levels are knowledge and comprehension. Okay, you've got an AI tool that can do that. So it gives you the opportunity to move up to those next levels, application and analysis, and even at the doctoral level, synthesis and evaluation. You don't have to know all these things. You don't have to fill your brain up with useless trivia. You need a baseline information. In many respects, it's like accreditation. There's baseline standards, but how are you going to innovate beyond those? How are you going to create better student learning outcomes, et cetera?
Yeah, going back to the Plutarch quote, right? Before, the process of filling the vessel ignited the fire, right? So I'll give you an example. If I was giving a reading assignment of 50 pages on the Conference of Yalta and then write an essay analyzing it, the process of me reading and digesting and breaking that down and then reconfiguring that knowledge in my brain to come up with assumptions and then putting it on paper, that lit the fire, right? Because I was doing both at the same time. The challenge is now we live in a world where AI can make filling the vessel so easy. I can just ask AI to give me a summary. I can ask AI to write the essay. That no longer lights the fire. So we have to figure out a different way to do that, right? And so imagine instead, I know exactly what would happen if I gave a 50-page reading on the Conference of Yalta to any student in America right now, right? They're going to put in AI, they're going to say, what are the 5 things I should know about this? They're not going to do the reading, right? But imagine instead the assignment was, here's an AI simulation of Yalta. You have to take on the role of Churchill or Stalin or Roosevelt, and you're going to make decisions and you're going to get feedback on those decisions. And you're going to live all those days of Yalta. And at the end of it, you're going to get feedback on the choices you made versus the frameworks we talked about in class. And you're going to be assessed on the decisions you made and then your explanation of why you made them. A, that's more compelling. It's something I want to do. But B, we're now lighting fires in a way that doesn't require you to assume that students are going to fill their vessels the way they used to.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example that happened to me just yesterday. Talking with a client and an accreditor. And the accreditor was saying that you don't need to go through state licensure because you're part of an exception. Or actually, I said that. And so I looked up on Google. And Google said, yeah, if you're charging less than $2,500 for a tuition and all the expenses, you meet BPPE exception criteria. I thought, oh, that's great. But I always go back and check the regulation. It's like, yeah, except that it's a very limited scope of industry. It has to do actually with pilot training and not with regular degree awarding institutions. Oh, well, if I'd just gone by the Google, then I would have given this client bad advice.
Yeah.
It's again, the knowledge being able to look at things critically, like the attorney question you gave.
And even if we were in a place, right, where AI was 100% reliable, we still want different viewpoints, right?
Yes.
And we still want the human component. Wikipedia, right? And let's say an encyclopedia, that is 99% right. But no one says that an encyclopedia replaces anybody, right? Somebody's got to know how to use it. Somebody has to know how to answer the question, ask the right question,
right,
and take those answers and apply them. And in today's era, you probably want to check it against other sources, multiple sources. That's what any good academic does. And then the role of expertise, right? Even if you get the answer, what am I missing? My first step in researching something isn't to look it up necessarily. If I know a subject matter expert, I'm going to ask, hey, this is the answer I'm going to get. What are the things I should think about? Or even better, how should I think about this answer? And so that goes into one of the points I like to make about the use of AI. We tend to use AI as a tool, as an answer engine, when it's far more powerful as a thought partner. Not give me this answer, but how should I find this answer? Or even better, here's the answer I found. What's wrong with it?
Exactly. And that helps people develop their ability to analyze, critical thinking, all of those things. If you're working in a team and you give it to somebody else, there's the teamwork aspect, all that. I want to touch base a little bit on we've talked a lot about classroom stuff here. What are some of the applications an institution can use overall with AI? Yeah. And what are some of the gotchas with each of those? For example, the enrollment funnel.
Yeah. So I tend to focus on teaching and learning because that's where my passion is. The platform we built can certainly be used for other components of AI in an institution, operations, administration, research. And obviously AI can be applied to all those areas. I think that when you're thinking about like administration operations, now you've got heightened security concerns. You're dealing with a lot more FERPA data, right? You're dealing with AI at scale. I think this is where CIOs get very nervous about the systems and security. This is where something like Microsoft Copilot, frankly, makes a lot of sense because of the close ties to their security architecture. It's a workforce application. And again, I think the same way we need to reimagine classrooms to be AI native, we probably need to reimagine the administration of educational institutions to be AI native. Mm. I'm not an administrator. That's not my particular area of expertise. I'm just talking in general terms.
Of course.
Same thing with research.
Yeah.
Right? What does research look like in an era of AI? And again, I think there are specialized AI tools that focus on academic research at the undergrad, graduate, and postgrad level. Again, I'm not a researcher by profession, but again, what does research look like in an AI native world? I think in all these cases, Drumm, right, we need to let 1,000 flowers bloom. Give people infrastructure, give them tools, give them left and right limits, let them experiment and make failure okay, and then let them learn from that and share those learnings across your organization. And whether it's in teaching and learning or administration operations or research, the organizations that have done that, that's where we're seeing the best, fastest, and greatest adoption of AI. Mm-hmm.
Some of the things I'm seeing, obviously counselors are overworked, student advisors overworked, being able to use an AI tool to bring up different options, and then having your counselors speak to the students saying, this is your options based on my experience and my knowing your situation. This is the direction that I would advise you to go. Career services would be another option. How could you use it? What are the jobs? What are the degree? What's your degree? What are the jobs you'd be eligible? How do you position yourself better? I mean, these are all things that AI can help with, but it's not AI native. It's AI enabled.
Yeah, but it's still extremely valuable. Absolutely. We've talked to several institutions, career counselors or academic counselors, career advisors are overworked. They have, too many people that want help and not enough time. And so the use of AI to be a supplement, not to replace, but just supplement that. A couple things happen, which is interesting. One is they can help more people because some people can self-serve. Second, the people that are coming for academic counseling or career advice, right, will have already done some of the work on their own, which means they come more prepared. Mm-hmm. That means in a 30-minute window of time, instead of, maybe 20 minutes of questions have been answered that they could have self-helped. Now their time with the counselor is more valuable. The other thing we're seeing, which is interesting, is that students will ask questions of AI. They won't ask a human being because they're embarrassed, True. Right? Or inconvenient. A community college, right? The most likely time for a community college student to have an academic or career question is 10 to 12 p.m. at night, right? Not a lot of academic advisors and career counselors working at that moment.
Really?
So they just don't ask. So either they have to go out of their way and remember that, right? Or they just simply don't bother.
Yeah.
Right. And so something that's available to answer the question then and doesn't judge and is convenient, right? Is that better than a human counselor? Well, something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
but at the same time, it gets them an answer, gets them thinking about it, and they can go to their actual advisor and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. AI said this. What do you think?
Right.
So it gives that. We haven't touched on implementation. And obviously, when we talk about faculty, there's shared governance. Collaborative approach with this is incredibly important. I had one client I worked with doing an academic strategic plan, and the group was frankly stuck in developing the strategies. They had all the tactics, but how do you label these and which do you first, et cetera? So I put it in an AI platform, and the faculty, the administrators, which were all faculty members, were horrified, saying that this was plagiarism. So obviously, there's academic freedom that comes into this. There's shared governance. What have you seen over your time doing this?
Yeah. I mean, we're very blessed. We have over 70,000, 80,000 users across over 1,300 different academic institutions. We've been adopted as the AI infrastructure for 90 colleges and universities and more every day. So we have this privilege of working alongside educators and administrators every day and seeing a wide variety of practices. So I will say first, there's no one size fits all, right?
Good.
The needs of a community college are different than the needs of an R1. The needs of a school that serves an urban population is different than needs of a school that serves the needs of a rural population. But I will say, generally speaking, what has been most successful are collaborative approaches that are ground up, right? In other words, institutions that try to take a centralized approach where the administration picks a tool, picks a methodology and says, hey, this is how we're using AI. It doesn't involve faculty and students. That generally gets a lot of blowback, just being very honest. For all the reasons, for all the reasons that would be apparent to anybody listening to this podcast, right? Where it's been most successful is where there's an AI task force, an AI committee. They're involved from day one in picking out the tools and picking out the platforms and developing the implementations, and realizing that from day one, this is not a technology problem, right? AI in a college is not a technology problem. It's a training and change management problem. Yes. It is a human resource problem, first and foremost, right? Yes, it involves technology, and technology can be part of the solution, but you're really investing in your people, right? And they need to be invested as well. Yeah. And also, as I mentioned before, right, 1,000 flowers need to bloom. The needs of the chemistry department are going to be different than the needs of the writing department. The needs of the career office are going to be different than the needs of your adjunct professors. And so enabling lots of experimentation, setting the example by the administrators of experimenting themselves, right? And then sharing the learnings that come from it. There's another partner of ours, Pueblo Community College. They have a wonderful AI task force. When they first implemented BoodleBox, they had monthly luncheons where anybody from across the campus could come and just share what they're doing with AI and what they learned. And sometimes it's success stories, but as often as not, it was also, hey, this is what I did and it failed, or it didn't have the expected results. But it created this environment of shared learning, which is so important right now.
Yeah, it's so critical. And actually, if you're smart, you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes.
Yes. That's why I consider myself a very smart person, because I've had a lot of failures.
Well, you're an entrepreneur, and that's what it takes.
Yeah, most of what we do fails.
So, France, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate your time today. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. As we always do, wrap up with 2 questions. First, 3 takeaways for higher ed presidents and boards. What do they need to know about this AI revolution, and how can they use it to help their institutions?
Yeah, I would say first, think about where you're at, right? AI independent to AI enabled to AI native. Think about where you want to be and understand that framework. Second, understand, as we just talked about, this is as much a training and human resource problem as it is a technology problem. Invest appropriately, invest in people as much as platforms. And third, create a culture of innovation. This is about experimentation. It's about learning. Set the example yourself. There are some deans and presidents that are very public about how they're using AI, how they're experimenting, how they're using the classroom. As we often said in the Army, right? What you do is so loud, I can't hear what you're saying, right? So set the example as a leader.
Those are great takeaways. I'm going to throw one more in there. And you touched on it with the innovation. Innovation is critical, but even more critical is the collaborative approach because you're not going to do this top down. It's got to be a top down, bottom up.
Yes, 100%.
So what's next for you?
We are excited for 2026. We have some great partnerships that are in the works with a number of institutions that are right there on the cutting edge. We also have some really great partners. We've just announced a partnership with Microsoft. We're about to announce a collaboration with NVIDIA. We're excited to continue to partner and build this AI native classroom. The one request I have from the listeners is there are folks out there who are BoodleBox users. You know I love feedback. For those of you who are about to check out BoodleBox, I would love feedback from you too. And particularly if it's things you don't like. Gosh, I don't get this. Here's something that's broken. Here's something that's missing. We very much view what we do as a partnership with higher education to build this platform for the AI native classroom, for lifelong learning and work with AI. We can't do that without feedback.
Very good. France, thank you so much for being on the program. It's been a wonderful conversation. I look forward to hearing more about what you and BoodleBox are doing going forward.
Thanks, Drumm. Great to be on.
Thanks for listening today, and a special thank you to my guest, France Hoang. France, thoroughly enjoyed exploring AI with you. Thanks for some great learnings, and I look forward to the next time our paths cross. To my listeners, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Changing Higher Ed is a production of The Change Leader, a consultancy committed to transforming higher ed institutions. Find more information about this topic, along with show notes on this episode at changinghighered.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to the show, and we would also value your honest rating and review. Email any questions, comments, or recommendations for topics or guests to podcast@changinghighered.com. Changing Higher Ed is produced and hosted by Dr. Drumm McNaughton, post-production by David L. White.